this list is full of male scholars, and that is obviously something we're looking to address. But so I think um, identifying why we want to showcase Indian scholarship, what kind of scholarship, is there a time period we are ascribing to each scholars or their work, is there a theme they're ascribing, might be a comprehensive way to, I mean, of course we can all get together scholars we like, but the risk with that is it's a little it doesn't serve the initial task of, you said everyone's rough research premises should be somewhat outlined. It kind of doesn't help with that. My second thing is it reproduces the existing knowledge hierarchies, which I think will be very counterproductive to something like this. And yeah, so a time theme, I mean, a timeline or a theme might be a useful conversation to have in this context. Initial thoughts. Let's hear what the others have to say. Anyone else?
Aman sir is maybe. Sir, I think Aman sir has worked, so maybe he or Shantanu can.
So I
Yes.
will say that on my own level, I was working with someone here to go through, as we all know, the Indian Yearbook of International Law. I think it is called. There are 18 volumes, and I think I had access to 10. So I mean, for my own interest, I did pick up a few papers from there, but they have a lot of literature on a lot of contemporary issues from, I think, 60s to 81, 82. So I think, I mean, I was trying to work on somehow digitalizing these, but that has not come about. I think that's been a long agenda for and a long-lasting agenda for a lot of people. But that is something that I was trying to do on my own level. So I mean, that also has a diverse kind of literature, but a lot of it is people who are working for the L&T division or Alexandrovich and other authors. So I think I found that distinction helpful. A lot of people trying to put together state practice and um, uh, practitioner's view of things. And, otherwise, it was a very historical approach to how they saw the issues. But I'm not sure how to go about dividing the arrangement as Aman's saying now. Um, so I think that is worth thinking about. I think going by names is not really very helpful. Um, because to my knowledge, Professor Nedumpara has not written a lot historically, whereas other authors
Hmm.
are concerned. Their themes run through history. So I think that it doesn't put him at the same level as, say, Alexandrovich's work on India and uh, the past practice. So I think there's some distinction to be made rather than dividing them by names or who wrote about what. There is probably a way we can do this in a much better sort of distinction.
I can see what Aman has typed in the chat, which is uh, thematic arrangement might be useful because for contemporary researchers. So I want to put four questions before us for all of us to think about. The first is, what is our idea of scholarship? I mean, are we looking at people who publish prolifically, or are, because is that the idea of scholarship, or would that also include, as Shantanu mentioned, practitioners who vocationally written here and there? P.S. Rao, for instance, has written an extensive piece on self-defense. He may not be publishing prolifically, but then in my understanding, that would be a useful publication for most Indian scholars to read. So, what do we understand by the term scholarship? The second question is it India centric or is it Indian scholars? Because that helps us resolve the Alexandrovich question. It could be Indian scholars who are not currently based out of India. That should be okay. But if you want to put Alexandrovich in the list, then India centric or some kind of conditionality has to be attached as to why he's there in the list. I'm happy to assume he's Indian in some way, but because we're making the list, it might be useful to justify that. The third one is, why do we need the list? Which is is this just an archive? Is this an archive to also recognize that contemporary scholars can refer to it both as works of history and as works of themes? So some, reflection on why is it that we need the list, and I suspect there'll be many reasons, starting from something as basic as Indian scholarship has not been documented in a way that it should be, to anybody working in international law from India about India will find this helpful. So those two, and of course there are trail-based reasons as well. And then the last one is, how do we make this list? So is it thematic? Is it chronological? And I think all these questions are related. So I thought putting four of these out there and trying to answer them will give us a sense of what to do next.
Okay, so when we started making the list, we didn't differentiate between the author is a policymaker or academician, or maybe he might be writing from political background, maybe India centric. Earlier I had something, but then I removed it because I thought I can keep it in the miscellaneous section when we make. There are Rajiv Gandhi's speech, which is available on NLSI's website, right? Which is something that we never knew when we were studying at the undergraduate or LM level. So if we talk only from the perspective of scholars, the idea is, of course, to go with the as our next stage, we can go with the thematic than chronological. This is still because we can modify. This is the best part of having a website, that we can modify things, copy paste the same page and modify it. So we can go theme wise as of now, and of course all the details will be there, year and everything. And if it requires, we can maybe a year later we can divide them into in a chronological order or something. But one problem that we are facing is how to create a theme that creating theme itself is a big task, because certain things can be easily divided. For example, international criminal law, someone has written on a specific topic. Investment law, maybe history of international law, Prabhakar Singh has written, Professor Jimmy's some articles. RPRM's most of the articles can be kept in that category. And then there are articles which were written during, let's say 50 years back. They were contemporary articles, but now they are not history. They are not historical articles. They are contemporary articles from the past. So, like some Rahmatullah Khan is writing, let's say in some year, he is writing from the contemporary perspective, but right now that is just a historical document for us. A lot of things might have changed in international law. So how to, sort of, if we are going to make a theme, how should we approach? Because this author-wise page will be there. We are not going to delete it. So it will be there. Then the main page, we can say, will be the thematic page. So this is, and also on the, is it India centric or not? It is not India centric from my perspective, because if we focus on any centricism, then the whole project will spoil. The idea is to have diverse, voices. Maybe someone writing from indigenous perspective, or India within India or something. So let's have all the perspective, but let's have the different voices within India. Maybe someone writing from Northeast, they may not agree with the voices that mainstream Indian international law scholars try to say, or maybe someone is writing from Kashmir, they might have something else in their head about the Kashmir and India relation, right? And they say it. So we will have all the kind of writings. On the accessibility part, what we are going to do, because we know that old documents we can upload the PDF because they are sometimes openly available on different websites, or if they're not available, we can get somehow the copies. But for the new scholars, especially, we can't upload the PDF of book, even if it is available, because that will be a proper violation of copyright. So we can't do that, but at least we will have all the data in our private, folders or somehow. So we can't openly share, but maybe internally we can circulate. But that is not the plan as of now. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to make everything freely available, just like science, but I just want to have all the writings available. So I think others don't mind sharing their articles, and now everyone is uploading their articles on SSRM also. So most of the articles are easily available. The only problem is with the books. And even for authors like Professor B.N. Patel, and few more. They have written for Indian authors, publishers like Eastern Book Company and others. The books are good, but they are not available anywhere in the digital copy. So we have to see how we can get digital copy, just like Shantanu said regarding the Indian Yearbook. So there are few challenges, and this is just the idea that we had in mind.
So I think the Excel sheet notwithstanding, there are two things that will be useful, which is based on what you just said. One of which is what is the goal of a project like this? And then rather than saying India centric, I mean, by Indian centric, I didn't mean, mainland India centric, but anything that pertains to a certain, region in a manner of interest. So we will probably have to reframe that again if we want to accommodate someone like Alexandrovich in the list, because otherwise in my head I don't know how we're going to say Indian scholars and then have him front and center alphabetically and even otherwise. So we might want to just sort of like have a short paragraph on why do we want the list and what is the intent of the list before we go on thematically addressing. The second thing is it will be helpful to draw up a list of scholars, because from what I see on the Excel sheet and the link to the page, obviously you're right, it's mostly JGU people and SAU people. Yeah. And the idea is again to not foreground institutions that already have a certain kind of social capital, which is unfortunately going to be the problem everywhere. So this list also so far from what I can see are either really big names or mostly ISIL people, or at least big names in the conventional sense. I mean, in my head, Ratna Kapoor should be on this list perhaps before somebody like Professor Sinha, not to establish hierarchy, but just in terms of, but she's not. So I'm also a little, I think we should drop some names first and then keep adding. And then here also, what is happening based on whose work, who knows, and who's interested and who's not interested, the pages are being filled up. Swati has been very kind to fill up Professor Khan's list of publications. But for someone like Ratna Kapoor, or even Surbhi for that matter, who's more contemporary, it'll either have to be, one of us or somebody else who's doing this, because there clearly is a logic to how the list is now being filled. So, which is why I'm thinking a set of names and then maybe asking people to voluntarily take up some of these names or allocating some of these names might be helpful.
So what we are doing as of now, so for this list that we have prepared in the Excel sheet that you can see, that list is being prepared by some interns, right? So I give them link like Google Scholar and other like JSTOR, and I also have access to Oxford and Cambridge articles and things, right? So I give them my credentials to log in and find the articles. So if we have the list of the people whom we should include in the list, like established maybe old, but Surbhi and others, we have to maybe decide like how we can create their names, because they are writing, so even their Google Scholar or SSRM ID will work for now, right? So I mean, in terms of helping, one help that we need is to please give us the name. Who should we? That is the first priority that we have. Once we have the name,
happy to give the name. I mean, that's not the concern. I'm just also a little troubled to still see that these are the names we first think of first, and then
the name that you see on the website, the Google Scholar thing, that was prepared by me. So whatever night I said, okay, let's prepare few lists, and anyone, I need to say it could be mostly either SAU or JGU teacher or some of my seniors from SAU, right? And then people I know from this particular group. So it is just it's not even the representation of what we are trying to do. So
in this list, who all are the people who are still alive? Just very quickly on the list that you put up so far: Professor Chimni, Professor Bakshi. Oh, actually, no, quite a few of them are alive. I thought we could at least be like people are prioritizing those who passed away.
Professor Terry, I mean, most people here, I think, are still alive.
Yeah.
Yes. And Upendra Bakshi is also so. So now we have two tasks. Either we can first finalize, or we can divide the work into two. To work first on the writings of these people, like Professor Radha Vinod Pal and Yogesh Tyagi and everyone who has written for a very long time, right? Someone who has written extensively, and then move to the scholars, right? Or we can divide the work into two by saying like few people will be preparing. We have the team to prepare. We just need the names, right? And then we can, as a team, we can focus on the people who are currently working, like Surbi and others that you know, and how to prepare that particular list so that it should not look like people from particular university or particular institutions are being the face of international law in India. Right. So
Yeah, which is exactly what we want to avoid. My inclination would be to do method number 2, because PAL and all, you have some archive at least.
yes.
Even I have access to some of his old. So I mean, if we pool together, we can resource that writing, and that is going to go on in the sense that that writing is not going away anywhere. But if we also want to visibly make sure the list corresponds to a certain logic of how academia is or isn't, then I think we should probably proceed with these things simultaneously.
So is it possible like to contact? I mean, many people can be contacted through email. I know, and they really reply. So if we want to connect with more people in India, in Indian academia, or working in international from different maybe central universities, other private universities in India who may not have studied in some of Delhi University.
Yeah.
What would be the more effective way? That is one thing that I'm looking forward to.
So one of the ways to do this would be also go through the National Law School websites or curriculums and see who's teaching them public international law. So again, for instance, I would imagine Professor Hegde should already be on this list, but somehow he's not. So one is, go to the National Law School websites and see who's teaching international law there, or at least ask the students and find out who are the international law faculty members. That's a good place to start. From there, we can then expand to other institutions. The group, in some ways, should be reflective of most of the national law schools, I think, if not additional schools as well. So in the group, we can at least send out these questions. And from there, we can find out at least of the PIL teachers in the different law schools in India.
Yeah, I think the group is great for that. A lot of people from various universities, um, many of them are in connect with people who write on international law. So it would be easier to reach out through them to ask them about what is, like, I think Upendra Bakshi, for example, I think he very uniquely maintains a separate website where he has documented every single article he has written. So I think in that case you don't need it. I mean, he's fairly well known also, so it's not difficult to source his work. But I know there are some professors in I think Amity, Nagpur, who's written like for my interest, he's written a lot on state immunity. So I mean, nobody else has written on it, but I've tried to contact him, but he doesn't reply. So I mean, it would be easier to reach out to him through someone who's on the group. So just those examples, I mean, it's easier to contact people through their students who are present on the group or someone who would know at anyone else at those universities.
We can do that. Yeah, and also for the established scholars, like the other scholars that we are getting the archive, so the plan, I began my plan with the 2 articles. One is written by Professor Chimney, and another recently Aman sir and Prabhas sir wrote this article, right? So they have the list of scholars actually. And Professor Chimney's one article in Leading Journal of International Law. So he has also mentioned many 20 scholars that has names of Asian and African scholars. So I also use that list. So we are still processing how to prepare that list, because many articles written by old scholars are not available online. And that is a big challenge. And they are not available somehow to us actually. If you see the WorldCat link, the books and articles are available in Western universities, but they are not with us.
Which ones are you talking about?
No, I just did the random search for some scholars. So, for example, Nagendra Singh. So, if you see the list, Yatish did four writings, 4 or 5 books by Nagendra
Hmm.
Singh and then others. I think it is the Library of International Court of Justice from where he has. So, we can't access this, but these books are available to UK and other universities, I think, but not in India. So I was thinking maybe if they are available somewhere else in UK and you guys have access, and we can't openly ask in the group to simply share all this. So maybe we yes sir. I think Amansa is saying something.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
So we can hear you.
No, so I just wanted to address the 4 points which Rohini raised earlier regarding those 4 questions. So I think so when I prepared this list of top cited in Indian international scholars, this was the question that how do you categorize somebody in who are the people you want to include in that list? And same thing, the paper which you pointed out about nomination of Indian candidates, we had included Usha Natarajan's name there. And then when Professor Ranjan was presenting it to the panel in general, then it was pointed out that so there's a lot of problems to face that way.
Sir, can you
Uh,
speak a bit louder? Just a little bit louder, if you can.
yeah, okay. So I think it's very important to identify who are Indian. So what I've done in the list which I've prepared about the top cited Indian scholars is that I've said that people who either are Indian in terms of citizenship or nationality, or people who have worked in India or Indian topics. So, for example, Alexandrovich, of course, was not Indian. And though most of his literature is not India centric, he did work in India. In the so that's why we sort of include these things when we talk about works on India and international law. So that could be one way of identifying people who we want to include in that case. Uh, Second is regarding what sort of scholarship we want to include. I would suggest that we uh, should not just be centric towards uh, books or, for that matter, articles which are published in journals because if you look at some of the pieces which Professor Chimney had published, uh, I mean, though EPW is also considered as a journal, but it was published in some of his best well-known pieces were published in EPW. And currently, Professor Survi is writing a lot of pieces for journals which are not well known, but probably because of the area which he is working on, history of law. I think recently only was reading a piece published in the Dial or something, which is not exactly a well-known journal. So I think any piece which has some sort of scholarly contribution to make for international law can be included in that list. And the final point is about why have that list. Swati, I don't think is in the meeting here, but Swati would have been in a very good position to tell us to answer this question is because very recently I hosted this symposium with Professor Anupullah Khan, and we really struggled to have access to any of his work. I mean, you go to JSTOR, you go to Han Online, you go to all the well-known databases, and we still had a lot of problems. The major the major reason why we face those problems is because Professor Khan wrote a lot of pieces for Indian Journal of Financial Law, and these people have decided to pull off all their articles, which earlier were available on Springer and were available on Han Online, but now you have to essentially go to Han Online to have access to those articles. So having a list at least sort of gives us some sort of idea as to what are the things people covered in their writing. And I think, yeah, I understood it. I agree with Imran's point about having a little bit of difficulty in linguistic arrangement. But I also feel that, so for example, if I am hosting a symposium at Rahmatullah Khan, I'll simply go to Imran's website and click on Rahmatullah Khan tab and go through a list of his work. What if I'm working on, let's say, feminist approaches to international law, and I want to see who are people who are working or who have worked and have written about it from India's perspective. So then it becomes really important to have a place where I can go and read all the pieces written by all the different people from India. So, I don't know if it makes sense or not, but that sort of arrangement will be more helpful for somebody who's working on a topic, not on a course. And for this, Imran, I would suggest, so you do not always need to have a Google Scholar page. I mean, so for example, RP Anand never had a Google Scholar page, but we have sort of pulled out his pieces which are there available on Google Scholar. So you just have to type these pieces.
So actually, for RP Anand, if you see the website, we have not updated it. What we have done there is this website called International or something. So, yeah, for RP Anand, we just gave the hyperlink, Virtual Center for International Law, and most of his writings and all these links are actually hyperlinked to this particular page. So most of his writings are available here. So if someone has the website in their own name or this kind of thing, then we are not going to create a separate page on our website. We will simply have a hyperlink, right? And so I think it will reduce our work to a great extent. So all these books are available. Just click here and the PDF will be there. So for actually, we are also going to do it. Why waste our time on those people who have already their articles available online? Right?
No, I think this sort of page is only available for, I think, Professor Bhakti and Professor Anand. I think there was one website for writings of Professor Chimni also, but I don't know, that website does not exist anymore. So yeah, on Google Scholar also you can go. So for example, if you're looking for P.H. Rao's article, I think on Google Scholar you can go and find those pieces. Most of the pieces are there somehow on Google Scholar. And somebody was creative enough to create a Google Scholar page for Alexander, which that's also there. One final point is about, and again, this is a problem of patriarchy. When we were writing this paper on nomination of Indian candidates, there were certain pieces which were written by Neeru Chadha, Judge Neeru Chadha, and those pieces were cited in her TV on ITLAW's website also. And I kept asking my RA to give me links of those articles, and she kept telling me that there are no articles. She kept on telling me that this article does not even exist. The problem was that before marriage, Judge Neeru Chadha was known with a different name and she used to write with a different title. So those are the things which you'll also have to take into account when you are actually going and doing research of listing pieces which will written in the future. So yeah.
But I have noted down most of the suggestions that you gave. Yeah, one thing that we are particularly doing for the Google algorithm is that so we ensure that our web pages are visible on the Google search, right? For that we follow this Google console, right, and we see that our pages are listed. But still depends on the kind of tag we add on the web page, right? That for these pages we have not done. So if you see here, there is no tag, but for other articles and other pages there are, for example, let's say this was the page. So we add this kind of tags, and the tags actually come in the Google search. So once we are done with each page, we'll try to have. Oh, sorry, I can't show the screen. Sorry. So yeah, okay. So as of now, we have not put any tag on these pages, but if you see, like for example, this page, so there are specific tags, right? So maybe we can create a very specific tags for each scholar when we make, or maybe other kind of tags with the subject or theme wise. The only thing that I have learned as of now with regarding online searching is that if you put correct tag, correct keyword, it will be visible easily, right? So we will do that because this virtual center article don't come so easily. Sometimes it comes, sometimes doesn't come on the main page of the Google search. So we will try to do something with that also.
So I have a quick comment. One is, well, more about the next steps and how do we proceed. What are some tangible things to do? The second is, I had done a similar list for 12 scholars beyond what James had done. So following from Gati's and expanding his list, and one of the things we were doing in that list was next to each article or book is difficult because book is what it is, but next to each article, at least, no matter what format, and I really like Aman's idea of expanding the genre of what constitutes scholarship. I would actually say we should go ahead and include things like podcasts as well. But nonetheless, so next to each article or each piece, there were keywords. And aside from the scholar, the articles also had certain keywords. At a point when we try to arrange thematically, some of that might be helpful, which would obviously require us to either have read the articles or in some capacity know what's in the article.
Yes.
Hi, Swati.
Hello, Rohini. Hello, Imran. Hello, everyone. Sorry for joining late.
No. We've had some discussion on, what kind of scholarship goes in, who are we including in the list, and what is to be included in the list so far. And I think we have tentative answers to each of these. Imran, do you want to just sort of quickly summarize once what we've done so far?
Okay, so I just gave an overview of what was the original idea, and the beginning was just to have articles written by Indian scholars or Indian origin scholars on international or any topic, but it must be someone from India, maybe born in India. So we have created this rough list where Professor Chimney, R.P. Anand, and Rahmatullah Khan and others are there. And then there are people who are currently writing, they are contributing. So it's like we have two set of people, right, who have contributed a lot, and on their work we are kind of producing our work, right? So for those people like Professor Chimney and R.P. Anand, we have this page, different pages, their name, it will be there, and all their articles will be there. But now this is a strong suggestion, I think, which is a good suggestion, to create the writing list of literature on the basis of themes, right? So maybe general international law, international criminal law, history, and others. And then also regarding the list, that the list should not reflect that there are people from specific universities or they are the face of Indian Academy or international. So we'll also include those people who are from different other universities, which are not so much known for international law teaching, but people are writing on international from those universities. So we will. So the next step for the new people is to go for the NLUs and other central university. Maybe we can see the law faculties of central universities. In AMU, I know there are some professors who are writing on international law. In Banaras Hindu University, there are a few. DU already has good number of scholars. So we will target maybe national law universities and central universities first, and then we can expand to other universities. And it doesn't mean that at that time we won't focus on the private. If we know, then of course we will include them. So just to make it systematic, that is the beginning of the idea. That's it. And for people, if you see, so R.P. Anand's page is already available, right? There is this virtual center of international law. This virtual center of international law, which has most of the article, if not all, articles written by Professor R.P. Anand. So if anyone's writing is available online in this kind of format, so we will not have a separate, we will not upload articles on our website. Instead, we will just create a hyperlink with a little bit of background, right? Something like this. And anyone who want to read, they can simply click on the hyperlink and then they can come to this particular page. I think in a similar fashion, there are many books, old books, which are available on Internet Archive and this IndianCulture.com, which is, I think, is sponsored by the ministry. So most of the lectures, Tagore Law lecture series are also available online. Yeah. University of Calcutta website also, and also on the IndianCulture.com. So we are trying to use those sources and getting the PDF and uploading on our website. Yeah. So this is what we have done so far.
So I think all those are very important concerns that you've raised, and I think we will try to address eventually. I have two concerns which sub-branch from whatever you've discussed so far. First, that do we include the scholars who have substantially been trained in foreign universities and who are placed there as Indian contribution? Uh, of course, so apparently yes, but then if you're doing so, we should be able to maybe justify that or explain it. Why are we doing that? Second, thinking about good papers which are published in local publishers' work, like R.P. Anand's book from Vikas Publishing publication in Delhi, or even Rahmatullah Khan's work from Vikas Publications or other local publications, which now even KL Mukhopadhyay publication, which is now I don't think it's there still functional. And then think about not so good scholarship which finds place in international reputed journals. So, do we? I don't know whether it's useful or not, but is there a need of distinguishing or thinking on these lines as well? Because
Uh,
and I say this just because that so that we do not have works and promote some predatory journals. I'm not at all talking about these very good works from RP Anand
yeah.
and other scholars, but the reasons why which we discuss the broader concerns.
So I think there will be no problem in including the works by established scholar. I know, I mean, even if it is Vikas publisher or open publisher, published by RPN himself as a PDF, people will read. So the problem is regarding the new publications. Maybe after the establishment of an edus, and we have the this race of publishing. Right? Aman sir also mentioned about in India, not every university journal is that good that you simply add in the list. Otherwise, it will become too bulky. So I'm not sure if I'm at this stage. I would agree, and of course, your suggestions are most welcome. But we have to somehow filter. I'm not saying that it should not be on the website, but maybe we can have a list, a separate. But I don't want to sound like a taboo or trying to create a separation between foreign and Indian population. I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe some universities have really good journals. Maybe NHS Florida, I read their articles sometimes. NSIU has good journals. So maybe some universities are publishing good, but maybe for that we have to do a little bit of work. But otherwise, there's no issue with who is the publisher as such, as long as we know that the article and the writing is.
Yes, so I'm not. I think my point was mistaken. I didn't mean to talk about gatekeeping, but just to be to acknowledge these divisions also.
Of course, I mean we will try to include everyone, and for Indian publisher that I was talking, not many books are available in PDF format. For example, Professor Bimal Patel's articles, books are published by EVC, right? So his book is not available, so we have to contact someone at maybe at RRU to get us a digital copy or something, right? So we'll see. Indian publishers don't upload on Google Books either, so it's a very difficult task to get. But if the file is available, then of course there is no problem.
So I think on the 2 points Swati raises, which are both very important. So for those based out of foreign universities, substantially trained, in my head, let's say if you are thinking of someone like Sandhya Pahujan, should we at all include her in the Indian scholar list or not, is a very pertinent question. I think we need to have a longer conversation on this. There would be strategic value in including somebody like her, but I think we also have to ask her whether she sees her falling within the categories. So this could be a two-step process. We make such a list, we reach out to these scholars, we tell them that we are trying to do something like this, and would they like to be included in this or not. So Surbhi is easier because one of her degrees is in an Indian institution and so on and so forth. But someone like Sandhya will be slightly more tricky. But I think we can speak to these scholars individually. Your second point, which I also take on board, which I think was one of the earlier concerns I was trying to raise with the list before you joined the meeting, is, and I use this purely as an illustration. So I said in my head, I would think someone like Ratna Kapoor would make it to this list before perhaps someone like Professor Sinha, not to take away from his work, but just to talk about, the impact that certain kind of scholarship may have had or may not have had. I don't know if we are in a position to, you know, do the good scholarship, bad scholarship distinction without getting into some trouble. But I think we should place some yardsticks. We want to include everything, and we might want to place some parameters in place that are not very, I don't know what they are. I'm thinking as I speak, but maybe something might be helpful. I don't know what to.
Maybe when we have a bit more literature with us, we can invite more senior professor, maybe Prabhasan, and we can ask if he can give some time to, maybe more, maybe Prabhasan or anyone from India or elsewhere. Maybe we can ask Surabhi to guide us on how to how to create the list. So
We
maybe
should have two, 3 people take a look at the list, I think, or more than that, because people will have different opinions on what is good scholarship and what is bad scholarship, including established scholars. Matlab, seniority by itself is not discernment. So we might need to be a little more thing about that. So immediate next steps, what are we doing? We are expanding this list, and we are including names that are currently missing from the list. I'm just going to add that down. We are sending emails to NLU, central universities, to get a list of who their international faculty are, and we are also sending this into the group because, Shantanu also said this. I think there are enough people in the group who might be able to provide us with some of this information. So what else? What else can we do immediately? Okay, Imran, how many people do you have? Sorry, Shantanu, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
yes.
No worries. You can ask him the question.
I just wanted to ask him what kind of, how many people are involved so that we know, task
Currently,
allocation.
there are 4 students. They are all undergraduate. No, one is a PhD student, but others are undergraduate. So they are preparing the list, except the one which is prepared by Swati. So she was kind enough to prepare that list for Professor Khan. So
So I was just saying, because I think you said everyone who's involved in the project is also doing their PhD or are they studying? So, I mean, making the list should not be very onerous on them. That is one thing that I had in mind. And second thing is, I don't know if it's useful to reach out to NLUs or whatever universities directly to find out who teaches international law. I think that keeps changing a lot in a lot of universities, but it's useful to find out publicly available information that they put out of their about their faculties on their websites, and all universities, most of them do it. So if publications are present there, then we can reduce Imran and his team's work by just creating a link to that very web page, and you don't need to then link to every single article which they've published. So I think that will substantially reduce the number of new scholars without whether they are qualified in foreign jurisdictions or whether studied in foreign universities. So that politics goes. You can just write down the whole all Indian scholars teaching in Indian universities, colleges, institutes. Their publications are available on their website. 90% of the time, it will be. So that will reduce your team's work substantially, and it will introduce many new scholars who have written on diverse field of diverse issues. So that is one approach, but I don't think approaching NLUs would. I mean, it would actually be quite demotivating if you work with administrations. It's easier to put that list on the group and then ask people from so and so institute to, if they know who teaches international law. This is their landing page. Yeah, their publications are available here, and that will substantially reduce your work. It will actually let the group work for what it was constituted for.
I think I'm also saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's my position as far as approaching NLU or central universities are concerned, because I know people who are working at NLUs and are teaching international law, but they are teaching international law by default. what do you mean by default in the sense that, for example, I'm pretty sure Swati is at NLU and she's teaching international law, and she is interested in international law. But you have people who, because their favorite subject like tax has been taken up by some senior faculty, so now since there is no one to teach international, that's why they're teaching international. And then because of the requirements of promotion, because of requirements of appraisal, they are now required to write. So because they are teaching international law, they report with some student and they write some paper in some journal. So again, without cutting any expulsion from anyone, right now all of you who have access to internet, go and check the website of Faculty of Law of Manipur University. The HOD is an expert on international humanitarian law. And I was surprised to see the journal in which he has published his latest paper, because the journal claims to be a journal which focuses, but the paper is published on international law. And the content again is I mean, it's very difficult to identify what are the areas of international law in that paper. So again, I'm not doubting the quality of the person or the person of the core of the paper, but at times it becomes difficult. And then you contrast this with, I think Rajput Shrinkal, who is working at Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University, which is again a university in Lucknow, and his works on indigenous people have been cited by nations. So I'm not sure to what extent are we going to get some sort of help, even if you are sending emails to central universities or national universities, because as I said, I mean, all of us know the reality of the subject of international law in India and the status of its teaching in India. So more often than not, you'll have people who have no knowledge of the subject and they are still teaching that subject because nobody else is teaching that subject. So I think another way of doing this is, I know it's not very good in terms of research or the methodology, but talking among ourselves and telling names of people who we know or whose work we have read or whose work we have cited. Of course, this does limit the scope of research in the sense that we might not actually get people who are working in a smaller institution, not even an NLU, for example, some college which is affiliated to some central university, but still people who are there are working really good. So and again, as I began by saying, I'm not really sure about this sort of approach we want to take about approaching an
I agree that risk is there, but so that is why I mean maybe it's useful, and I'm still working with the idea that it should reduce the work of Imran and Imran's team. That maybe you will have to sit as a judge on top of whatever is collected through the group. So I think you will have to have a filtering mechanism to see what people are supplying you as information about the faculties from their universities or universities where they studied in the past. So I think some filtering mechanism will have to exist. I'm sure you used it for compiling this list as it exists right now. But I know like there are instances where this quality and teaching may not be equal. I mean, someone's teaching international law, but they're not publishing in international law, so there really is no use in compiling their name and articles onto the website. So I think that filtering mechanism will have to exist. I agree with Aman. So I mean, that is something that you can consider, but maybe let the group also do the work that it was meant for, coordinating across universities.
So
So I think I agree with what Aman and Shantanu said. So for Allahabad University, for certain, I know that either the HOD will not have his mail ID, or if he has it, then then maybe most of the mails which are sent either to these universities or to NLUs, it would be directed to the dean, and then it may be seen as, okay, what is the point of nominating? Is it a kind of nomination from our university? What are the things? What are the ramifications? And then yes, we might not find actual people. So rather than this, can we think of having a Google Doc, just like Imran had the Excel sheet, and share it in our WhatsApp group as well as on other places in our circles, and then let people keep on adding few names? I don't know the viability of
I,
the
I already have this Google form created, so we can like make some changes and make it better and share in the group for the people who want their names to be right there in the list. So at least we will have some names there. But the only question is how many of them are going to fill the form. So, but at least it will take away this moral responsibility of including everyone. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be lazy, but there is no other way. I mean, the other way is to start searching the website of these universities and those who are somehow identified on the website as international law teacher, contact them, and it's just a long process. So maybe not at this stage, and once we have a bit more literature, then I think we can convince people to join this particular mission to be there with us. Yes, Shwarya, please.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time speaking on this platform. I got cut from the call for like 5-10 minutes, so I don't know if this has already been mooted. But this is something that struck to me as a good idea, that instead of sending an email to the universities itself and make the universities the point of contact, sort of collate a list, we can send an email to an IL interest group within the university itself. And I know not a lot of universities do have a group like this, but in my university, there's like a group of people who are interested in IL, though it doesn't exist as an institution per se. But if you could just reach out to like one person from each university that is willing to put together a group like this, it'll serve two ends. For starters, it'll get people talking about IL, and the second thing is that the collation of scholars from different parts of India is also done. Uh, that's what I think.
That's maybe that can be done through our own group because there are many students from different universities as well as, of course, faculty members. So maybe through that group we can see. But if that's not possible, then we can reach out to the universities, international law groups, because as Aishwarya said, not every university has. In my university, there was no IL group. I was barely taught, but after I left the university, then we got to know there are some good teachers. But in Central University, people have this pressure, and they take this as a pressure to write. They don't enjoy writing. So this is a serious problem in the Central University. Anyways, any other suggestion or what do you think? What should we do? I mean, I have the list that the 3 tasks that you have written.
I think we can wrap up with a quick, discussion on the immediate next steps. As to the processes, honestly, at this stage, because we're still gathering information, I think rather than debating what may or may not work, let's try everything. Whatever fails doesn't work, and what works, and then we try and improve upon that, because we're really at that point now. I wanted to make one quick observation before we start summarizing, which is, I think it would be this island interest group thing got me thinking. It would be useful to still be useful to look at people who are teaching international law, in the sense that some people may no longer be engaged with international law but may have produced really interesting work that might be useful for us. I'm thinking of, for instance, not an Indian example, someone like China Miéville, who's now writing science fiction but has probably written a fairly provocative and interesting piece in international law that still finds value. So current commitment to international law notwithstanding, we still might be able to find scholarship that has that sort of critical purchase. So then I think, having said that, we can just sort of kind of summarize right now. Imran, do you want to just walk us through the next steps?
Yeah, so there are 3 things that we are supposed to do, but I think we can start with adding name in the list. So the list, I think most of you have access. I also shared let me check if I have. Okay. So Aman sir, your Assam email ID is still working in NAU Assam email ID?
Yeah, it is working, but send it to Aman inflow@gmail.com because you never know when they stop me access to that.
Your Gmail ID, right?
Yeah, Gmail.
Okay. So I'll share this list with everyone that we have. and maybe you can simply create another sheet in the Excel sheet like this, and all of you know how you can create. But just to give an idea, you don't have to do a lot of things here. Okay, so if you know any scholar, you can either text in the group or on WhatsApp separately. But if you want to add something, you simply add a new scholar's name here, and it will simply pop up, right? So with this, we will have the name of all the people that we should create a list of, and then of course I can ask my team to find their articles and everything, right? So this is the first step that we are going to take, and then after that, maybe simultaneously we can start asking people in our group. So we already have a Google form. We will write a good message. This seems more convincing than the previous one. To share their details if they are working, especially, provided you have written something, because that is the main thing. So if you have written something, share the details of publication, most probably Google Scholar. If not, then any other open access or something, maybe SSRN, university website, so that we can put their literature on our website. And once we have a bit more literature, then our real task will begin, where we may need maybe help of more people on themes, right? We will start making now all the literature with the keywords, as I already mentioned. So with every, I think in every articles there are always keywords, so we can take help from that. So we'll also mentioning the keywords with every literature that we have in the sheet, and then we can create that thematic list. I think that will be the real challenging part, but that will be the good thing to do. So that's all as of now we can think of.
This is good. I think we've made some good progress in the meeting. Imran, also share with us, a short summary of those 2 points. Yeah. And then we will just start sharing names, etc., or directly add them to the list. And then perhaps, as you know, you have the people working on this could then start building their profiles.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one final suggestion. I shared in the group in the chat box about the top started international scholars. So once you click on that link, it will take you to all the names which is there on that list. So for example, the list which you prepared for your own blog, you can add names from this list. For example, Lavanya Rajamani's name is not there. Ratna Kapoor, Rajesh Babu, Raju, these people you can add to that list also. And once you click on their name in the link which I have shared, it will take you to their Google Scholar page. So then it will become easier for you to list out all their works.
Sure. Okay, people, that's all from my side. Any other comment, suggestions?
Did we record this meeting? No.
Yeah, I'm recording.
Okay, great, fine, all right. So we can come back to it in case we feel like we